getting into chapter 252 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is now part 24 of the Shinjuku Showdown. It starts off this time outside of Yuta's domain a little bit before it was destroyed in the previous chapter. Ino and Kusakabe are both stood outside the domain, and Kusakabe compliments Yuta being able to change the barrier's coordinates so that all the other sorcerers can scatter and take up positions, leaving no blind spots. He continues saying that when Yuta releases the barrier, that's the signal when Maki will rush in. And Ino asks if a few more sorcerers should jump into the domain, since Choso was also originally a part of that plan. But Kusakabe reminds him that if someone enters the barrier now, then Sukuna will focus on the outside of the domain, and they don't want to spoil Maki's ambush. And besides, not many of them now can maneuver around a special grade, even though Ino secretly thinks that Kusakabe can. Kusakabe calls for Maki and she pops into view. He then tells her that a lot rests on her shoulders, and she breathes out before taking a running stance on the road. Eyes forward, she's ready to pounce at supersonic speed at any moment. Kusakabe then thinks to himself that Yuta will signal when Sukuna lets down his guard, and as this scene catches up with the timeline of the previous chapter, the domain shatters and they all get ready. But before we get into the rest of the chapter, if you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe, it really helps my small channel grow. Also, I've made a Patreon and it's in the description below, support me if you'd like. Now, unfortunately for the next couple of pages, these sketches seem to be quite rough against the clean background an assistant probably did for Gege, but it's best not to think about it since Gege was probably really short on time for this chapter and couldn't finish the drawing for those pages in that time. Kusakabe calls it the best and worst case scenario as the fighters are brought out into the open after the barrier broke, and already in a tenth of a second, Maki has pierced Sukuna. Rika then immediately carries Yuta away, and Kusakabe shouts for Oi, who teleports in to take Yuta away. Maki swings her sword up, aiming to slice open Sukuna, but he quickly retreats away, and he thinks to himself that Yuji burst the domain on purpose to probably signal the allies and that there are more of them around. Sukuna reflects that their plan must have been to use the rupturing barrier to distract him when he was certain of victory, so that Maki could strike. He then says that they must have planted the tool ahead of time, and Maki passed through easily since she has no curse energy. He also notes that the wound suffered by the katana is healing a lot slower than the others, and the narrator then explains that when someone who can see the soul uses the split soul katana, reverse curse technique doesn't usually heal the wound, and that understanding the shape of the soul is necessary to heal from a wound like that. Although two souls are inhabiting his body, Sukuna can indeed view the shape of the soul. However, he is unable to perfectly adapt reverse curse technique to his soul after his fight with Gojo, and of course more Gojo glazing by the narrator. Even way after their fight, Sukuna is still affected by Gojo's strength. Yuji starts to run towards Sukuna thinking of Megami, but suddenly pain shoots through him and he throws up a ton of blood. He's panicked all of a sudden, but realizes why his body is doing this. Reverse curse technique is a huge move he has recently learned, and since healing 4 fatal wounds, there must be some place he hasn't managed to fix. Suddenly, a hand is placed on his back, and someone tells him to calm himself. And we learn that it is Choso, still alive, thank God, who tells him to remember and envision, to send all the blood to every part of his body, shaping it with his blood vessels. And if this isn't confirmation he knows blood manipulation, then I don't know what is. Yuji can definitely use it, no doubt about it now. Now, getting into the fight with Maki and Sukuna, another long-awaited battle, thank you Lord Gege. Maki swoops down on top of Sukuna, but he unleashes a dismantle towards her. However, it only chops a lamppost in half as she smoothly dodges it. And in literal microseconds, she rolls on the ground in front of Sukuna and aims a slash towards him. He manages to jump and avoid it, but Maki is already ready for this and then switches and thrusts her sword towards him. He grabs the end of the blade trying to overpower her, but this is exactly what Maki wanted, and she smiles as she flips him over and then bats him away like it's nothing. He uses cleave on the building he lands on, firing the broken bits towards her. They land near and around her position and initially surround her, blocking a lot of her view. Then she hears Sukuna chanting before we see a giant dismantle slash that slices through the rubble straight for her. However, thankfully she manages to dodge it in time while the rubble comes tumbling to the ground. Sukuna and Maki face off again, and Sukuna thinks to himself that she reads his techniques better than other sorcerers, similar to Mahoraga in Shibuya, proving just how powerful she is if Sukuna himself is thinking that. Maki then thinks to herself that Sukuna is using cursed energy to heal and keep his heart beating, reminding her of what Megumi said all the way back in the juvenile detention center. She then straight up asks Sukuna if he can keep his heart beating while battling her, and Sukuna sarcastically states that at the moment, he's having no trouble at all. Suddenly we move away from this fight and are now seeing the battle between Hikari and Uraume. Ice covers the landscape and Hikari says that Sukuna's presence is extremely noticeable. Uraume asks what he's getting at, and he responds that his forearm form is pretty dangerous, but Sukuna's cursed energy is slowly withering away, and loudly claims that they're going to win this. Uraume scoffs at him, calling his curse technique and optimism both absurd. However, Uraume also reveals that Sukuna is capricious, and the reason why his cursed energy is wavering is because he isn't interested in his opponents. They should all be ashamed of themselves for not being able to present a fight better than Gojo Satoru. Uraume then coldly states that even considering the effects Gojo's fight had on him, Sukuna still isn't taking this fight seriously. And the chapter ends there with the last panel showing this demonic, obscene form of Sukuna staring even the readers down. And this is quite a foreboding ending. It's as if Gege, through Uraume, is telling us that the fight is far from over and Sukuna hasn't been taking this seriously at all, which is just crazy to me since our heroes have been fighting tooth and nail, almost getting several legs up on Sukuna. It's so unpredictable, and I genuinely have no idea how they're going to take Sukuna down. At this point, it's better to bet Sukuna will just win, and that's it. So, series over. One of the first big animes is this to make the villain win. Well, maybe, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's now coming to the end of the video, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I'm so happy you stopped by. My channel is steadily growing, and I'm amazed at the support I'm getting. And I also have a Patreon now, so feel free to support me however you like. The link will be in the description, and I will shout out names at the end of each video. Thank you again, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.